Today, I'm showing you how I batch, price, and list everything at once so they actually make it into my online shop and start making money. We are going to get started by boiling a pot of water. That's right. We are going to tea dye some drop cloth for this first project. I'm using pumpkin spice scented tea because that's not only going to look perfect in that tea dye color, but it'll also give us that beautiful smell that is nostalgic of the holiday season. Once that drop cloth had soaked for several minutes, I do lay it outside to dry in the sun for several hours before moving on. This stamp is Christmas Wishes. It is gorgeous. It's probably one of my favorite ones so far, especially for this season. Even though I love nutcrackers, this one might be my favorite as far as versatility for projects. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to be stamping on these tea-dyed towels or tea-dye drop cloth that I created. I want to make some bowl fillers. So I have these ones that I've already made with some of the other stamps from this release. And I did make an attempt to try something different by decoupaging on the back. I did not like the way that looked. So I'm just going to make it simple. I'm just going to do the two sides with the drop cloth. I might do one side with something a little more wintry, like a snowflake. I actually wonder if it might be easier to stamp first. And all you're doing is taking some light 220 grit sandpaper. You're going to just quickly scuff it on one side, then go down the other side. And you only ever have to do this once. I need to grab my thin mount, which I know I did. Here it is. And I'm going to grab my little angel. And I need my ink. This is IOD ink. It is just in a different ink container. You want to have enough because it will absorb into the drop cloth. That's so pretty. Look at that. Now, if you need to, you can always use a brayer. This is just what you would do. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and give them their snips now. I do want them to be a little bit larger than what my final product will be, mainly because you need that excess space for the stuffing, and then afterwards to like just trim it down and make sure you have exactly what you want. So I'm going to cut this down, but if I end up cutting it down later, that's okay. That's why I gave space between each of the stamps that I did. And save this because this could be used to make a tag or to use as an embellishment on another piece. Now I've got my other tea dye towel. The colors are slightly different, but I'm not as worried about that. I'm going to go ahead and trim this to be, again, almost the same size. You want to leave a little bit extra space, which can be trimmed off later. Just because when these pieces go, you don't want it to go so far that it ends up putting a hole into your little pillow that you're making. This is part of last year's release, Vintage Snowflakes. This is still available on Julie's website, Julie's Designs and Signs. I have an affiliate link down below. So you can get this stamp and you can get this stamp if you want to replicate the project. And now we can fill it. And once it is filled, we're going to glue down that last end. And then before I kind of scuff up the sides to give it that shaggy edge again, I'm going to trim this down slightly. You're going to be batching, doing stuff in bulk. I would recommend that you practice a few times before you get into a groove of what you're going to do to make sure that everything you're planning in your head works. Sometimes I have this big idea to, like I'm going to batch everything. I'm going to start right away. And something doesn't go as planned. And then I feel stuck. So I would suggest that you try out a couple of single projects or single items before you decide you're going to do this big batch of everything. It'll kind of reduce your frustration in the long run if you kind of work out any kinks before you start batching. I mean, that couldn't be any easier than that. So we're going to go ahead and do the other ones, and then we'll be able to style them in our basket.
I do plan to sell these in a set of 6 for $9.95, and I would love your opinion on whether I should sell them in with similar items or different items stamped on. Comment below and let me know. For this next project, I have these 24 ceramic tiles that I bought in bulk along with the self-adhesive backing, that cork. I will say that I have found cheaper options since I purchased this back in June, so definitely check out some different options that you may have should you want to replicate this project. I am going to take the ceramic tiles as is and use my Fusion decoupage gel as my medium, and I'm going to use a variety of different options for decoupage paper that I have in my stash to decoupage onto these coasters. I did not paint. I wanted to make this a very simple project. They are not pre-painted. They are not glazed yet. So that is one thing I will say, to be very generous with your decoupage, because some of it will maybe absorb into that ceramic tile. Once I have decoupaged that onto my surface and covered the top with some decoupage gel, I let it dry fully, and then I'm going to cover all of these items with 3 coats of a gloss polyacrylic sealer. I probably should have mentioned that before I did cover those tops with those 3 coats of polyacrylic sealer, I sanded down the edges of that decoupage paper to give it a really clean edge across these coasters. Once again, this is another super simple project. It is a great project for batching. The last step, and you could do this step at the beginning or at the end or in the middle, really is your choice, is you do need to adhere those cork backings onto your coaster. They have a wonderful sticky tape, glue, whatever on them, and it really is perfect. So as long as you center them nicely, you have a wonderfully professional looking project ready to go. Now, some of these items I did have in sets, meaning they're the exact same decoupage paper on 2 of the ceramic tiles, but most of them are unique. They are similar, but not exactly the same. I would love your opinion on whether you think I should be setting these up as sets or almost allowing my customers to do a mix and match. The other thing I do want to mention, when you are tying these sets together, which you see I did here, you do want to make sure that you're tying those bows in a spot that does not interfere with the main feature of that coaster. You want your customer to be able to notice the design that is on it so they can make a decision. I don't know that I will be tying together the ones that are not matching sets unless I tie them kind of back to back so that the customer can see both of the options that are available in the set. When considering price, when I'm selling online, I do like to use the 95 kind of psychology method. If you want to learn more about how I price my items, I will leave a video, which was episode 2 on Hoard Less, Sell More. But let's get started with listing. Okay, I am here. This is my website. And the reason I wanted to show you this, I'm not going to take you through every single step, but there is an important part of SEO, of really listing your products to make sure that you're giving your customers as much information as possible. When you are listing an item on your website, you don't have the opportunity to sell that product the same way you may at a craft fair and in person. So we're going to go over here to ChatGPT and let ChatGPT help us come up with a good description for these coasters. So I'm going to type in here I want a description for my website on a handmade set of coasters that I created using decoupage paper and a gloss sealer. I plan to sell them in sets of 2 and market them as personalized gifts you can buy this holiday season. Now, I am talking about personalization here. I do offer personalization on my website. Sometimes it's engraved, sometimes it's stamped. So we do want to make sure that we're including for our customer what that personalization will look like. I'm going to just put here personalization for this item would be stamped with ink. All right. And now it creates this beautiful explanation. And then it also offers me a shorter, friendly version, which I do like. So I'm going to say, yes, please. And now I have this really great thing. Here are some keywords that are included, but this is also helpful for the tags I need for my website. So I'm just going to take this, copy it, go back to my store, and I am going to create a new item. And I'll put in handmade coasters for Christmas. And then copy and paste that in. I always want to include the size. 4 by 4 inches. I forgot to include what they're made out of. Ceramic coasters. And then you want to make sure that you're including also like how they're made. So I said ceramic coasters. I'm probably going to add here base is cork for added protection on any surface. That's very helpful to a customer. And then it describes it. I've got my size here, and I can come down and then add the rest. So I'm not going to go through this because this is going to be different depending on where you are selling. I will put my price in and then how many I have in stock and save. So right now I'm going to save it as hidden because I'm not finished, but that's how I plan to list. I hope today's video has inspired you to begin batching your products to get yourself ready for this holiday season. And stay tuned because coming up, we will be talking about taking photos for your website and how to display your items for a craft show or market. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.